Der Class Trial Nummer 3 hat im letzten Part angefangen von Danganronpa 2, Goodbye Despair.
What do you mean, a closed room?
The killer blocked the venue door from the inside to try and keep us from entering right away.
However, that door is the only entrance to the music venue, right? If they blocked the door from the inside, the killer would not have been able to leave either.
Yeah, you're absolutely right. Which means, when we broke down the venue door, the killer was still inside.
They were?
If that's the case, the only suspicious people are those who don't have an alibi for that time. And that's you two! Sonia and Kazuichi!
Me too?
What the hell? Why's it gotta be us?
The others all have alibis. Chiaki, Mikan, Hajime, and I all broke down the venue door together. Gundam met up with Hajime at the motel right before that. And if Akane and Nagito were laid up in the hospital, the only person that leaves is one of you.
There's another person who doesn't have an alibi. You know, Nekomaru.
Stimmt.
Me too!
Hey, why are you talking like... Huh?
Warte.
You're kidding, right? You're not up to something weird, are you?
Please stop making bad jokes.
Anyway, if the killer was hiding inside the venue, we should obviously doubt the people who don't have alibis.
What a wicked way of backing us into a wall! Is this his professional skill?
The killer was inside the music venue. Fuyuhiko obviously thinks so, but that really is? Oh, wirklich. Mortal room, keys, gravel, stick, paper, step ladder. Block. Okay.
The killer was still inside the music venue. By locking the door from the inside, they tried to keep us from getting in.
It seems they were trying to stall for time.
How did they lock the door? That door should not have had a lock.
The lock was on the floor in front of the door.
Are you talking about the broken drumstick?
You can use that as a bolt to lock the door. By doing that, the killer who was hiding inside waited till we gathered together and suddenly appeared.
So they looked like they had just rushed over.
I have seen this in serial crime dramas.
The person remark contradicted truth. I should be able to prove that with my evidence.
The killer was still inside the music venue. By locking the door from the inside, they tried to keep us from getting in.
It seems they were trying to stall for time.
How did they lock the door? That door should not have had a lock.
The lock was on the floor in front of the...
Are you talking about the broken drumstick?
You can use that as a bolt. By doing that, the killer waited till we gathered to... and suddenly appeared.
So they looked like they had...
I have seen this in serial crime dramas.
Okay.
The killer was still inside the music venue. By locking the door from the inside.
No, that's wrong!
Okay.
Hold on a second. There's also a possibility that the door was locked from the outside.
From the outside? How?
Also ich dachte schon, dass ich irgendwas von ihm abschließen muss, weil er ja gesagt hat, so, ob das wirklich wahr sein
There's a
kann.
semi-transparent glob stuck to the
Da dachte
venue
ich halt,
door.
okay, dann hat der Glob.
That's what they used.
Semi-transparent glob. Like rubber, maybe?
Wasn't rubber at all. The semi-transparent glob was probably glue.
I see!
Also Kleber.
That semi-transparent glob must have been glue.
Weil ja Chiaki auch gesagt hat, es schmeckt ekelhaft.
Glue?
Und es macht doch am meisten Sinn, damit es zu bleibt.
Yeah, I think so too. It had a firm, gel-like chewiness. And I could smell workshop chemicals the moment I put it in my mouth. Based on all that, I'm certain it was glue.
I didn't know glue was edible.
I believe it is not something one typically eats.
That glue was only applied to the
Jackie-san.
areas where both doors touched. By pouring it in the gaps of the closed door, they must have sealed the venue door from the outside.
And thanks to that, a glob of glue was left where the door was stuck. Yep, it fits perfectly. But if you just stick them together with glue, you'd be able to break down the door easily, you know? That doesn't really matter. The killer only did that to make us think the door was locked from the inside.
What'd you say?
First of all, didn't that drumstick we found seem really obvious? Almost unnaturally so? It was so obvious that it makes more sense to think the killer placed it as a diversion.
Are you saying the drumstick was a trap the killer set on purpose? Then I totally fell for that fucking trap.
Apologize to Miss Sonia and me. However, you're not allowed to slice open your stomach this time.
In a quarrel, both sides are to blame. That's why it's better to just have no sides at all.
So, during the 10 minutes Hajime left the venue, the killer murdered Hiyoko and created a closed space?
And they also taped her up after killing her, right?
Even quick work has limits.
Oh, what unimaginable speed for a slowpoke like me.
If they couldn't have done it while Hajime was away from the venue, they must have done it earlier than that.
Earlier?
But when Hajime got to the venue, only Ibuki's body was there, right?
Ja, denkt halt auch schon, wie ich gesagt habe, dass Hiyoko vor Ibuki gestorben ist, was ich auch glaube, dass das auch stimmt.
And when you went back with everyone else, Hiyoko's body was there too, right?
Dass der Killer vielleicht Hiyokos Leiche im Storage Room versteckt hat. Und dann, weil sie auch vielleicht selber im Storage Room war und dann gewartet hat, bis Hajime wieder rausgeht. Weil er hat ja offensichtlich die Dinge auch zerstört, deswegen wusste er ja wahrscheinlich, dass jemand zuguckt. Oder hat zumindest sich vorstellen können. Und dann ist er quasi, wo er rausgegangen ist, hat er quasi die Leiche hingemacht, dran geklebt und dann die Tür von außen verriegelt und fertig.
But it's possible that the body was just revealed at that time, when Hiyoko was actually killed earlier.
Ja.
Just revealed?
Of course, the body wasn't revealed on its own. The killer did that too. Here, I have proof.
Ah, das Ding.
That scrap of paper. Is that what we found in the baton lighting at the music venue?
That's right, but just what is this scrap anyway?
The scrap was that was stuck on the baton lighting in the music venue. Now I should be able to figure out what it is. Halt mal. Hangman's Gambit, Ja, es ist schon mal nicht. W. Wallpaper. Gottverdammt! Ah, hier Paper. Wo ist das gottverdammte A? Da oben.
I got it!
Gerade noch am Ende, wo die Dinger fast collided sind. Okay.
That scrap. Isn't it part of the wallpaper in the storage room?
Ja, daran habe ich auch gedacht, aber mir ist das Wort nicht eingefallen.
In the music venue storage room, There should have been black wallpaper that's the same color as that scrap. There was also a tear along the edge of the wallpaper, wasn't there? If so, you're right. If you overlay the scrap that was caught on the lighting with the tear in the wallpaper... See? It fits perfectly.
I see. So the scrap that was caught on the baton lighting was originally part of the wallpaper.
And what's wrong with that? Does it have something to do with Hyoko's body disappearing?
A mere nobody like me isn't important enough to answer that. But if you guys were exceptional enough to identify that scrap of paper, you can figure this out easily.
That scrap of paper stuck to the baton lighting was part of the wallpaper I found in the storage room. Is it connected to the sudden appearance of Hyoko's body? If I trace it back from there, the answer should become clear. Alright, let's give it a try. Ist es das wieder? Ja. Wie hat die Steuerung nochmal funktioniert? Ich weiß es gar nicht mehr. Okay, Break. X ist okay, Dreieck ist Springen. Why did Hyoko's body suddenly appear? It was hidden? It was hidden. Ich sage, it was hidden. Ja, okay, sehr gut. Es war versteckt. Die Leiche von Hyoko war versteckt. Was ich eigentlich schon dachte auch. Oh nein, ist das übel. Oh. 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 What did the killer use to hide their body? A curtain? The wallpaper? Also das, was halt kaputt war. Und vielleicht hat er ja reingewickelt. Und dann, wo er es rausgezogen hat, ist das Ding abgefallen. Kann ja passieren. Boah, ist das schlimm, ey. Ich bin ja absolut nicht gut in sowas. In Skispielen war ich immer scheiße. Had the killer hide their body within they covered the pillar, they formed a wall. They covered the pillar? Sehr gut. Oh, und es geht noch weiter. Ah, ne. Ich habe alles richtig gemacht, sehr gut. Was hidden the wallpaper and they covered the pillar. Weil es war ja dran gewickelt an der Säule.
It's all coming together. I got it. Hyoko's body was hidden before we found it.
But it would have taken quite a long time to tape up a hidden body.
No, the body was already taped up in the killer hid it,
stimmt,
along
ja.
with the pillar using the wallpaper.
What? They hid the pillar?
Yeah, by wrapping the wallpaper around the pillar, the killer was able to create a slightly larger pillar. So when I first discovered Ibuki's body, Hyoko's body was already there. However, because it was concealed within a slightly larger pillar, I didn't realize that at the time. Well, that's understandable. I mean, it makes sense that you'd notice Ibuki's body right away.
Yeah.
So they used the baton lighting on the ceiling to hang the wallpaper?
The baton lighting forms a perfect circle around the pillar, so using it to hang the wallpaper totally fits.
Then, the reason the wallpaper was covered in so many stickers was to make it look like that pillar.
That's how they hid Hyoko's body, and then peeled off the wallpaper as soon as I left the music venue.
But the killer made a mistake. They accidentally ripped off a piece of the wallpaper.
Ja.
And because of that, a scrap was left on the baton lighting.
Okay, ich habe wieder falsch gedacht, aber im Grunde war es eigentlich
Killer
richtig, was
must
ich
have
gedacht
been in a
habe.
hurry. Their plan took too long. Hajime could have walked in on them.
But going to the trouble of hiding the body and the pillar is very bold and risky.
But the crime itself would be much easier to pull off since they don't have much to do while Hajime's gone. They just have to peel off that wallpaper and stash it in the storage room. It's not that big of a deal.
Then, when was Hiyoko actually killed?
Good point. And on that note, it's about time we shed some light on those imitation murders.
You mentioned imitation murder more than once. But what is that?
Are you kidding me? You haven't seen my masterpiece? The Wizard of Monami 2.5D?
Hey, don't put my likeness in your movies without my permission.
You're pretty noisy for someone who eats mothballs.
I don't eat mothballs. I just enjoy looking at them.
I knew it! There are so many similarities. It must have been intentional.
Ibuki's death by hanging matches the Scarecrow's death from the movie. Not just that, but Hiyoko getting taped up after her death matches the lion's death.
It's as if both crimes were replicas of scenes from the movie, although the mutilated Tin Man was omitted.
But why did the killer go to all this trouble in the first place?
Based on what we know, the reason the killer chose these imitations isn't that difficult to figure out.
The reason the killer imitated the two victims in the movie, I should be able to explain it. To mix up the killing order, to let their accomplice escape. To mix up the killing order.
I see! The reason the killer imitated two of the murders from the movie was so he'd mix up the killing order.
Weil, das erkläre ich jetzt auch nochmal, weil im Film war es ja so, dass dass der Löwe nach der Scarecrow gestorben ist. Also theoretisch hätte es ja so dann auch so im Real Life sein müssen, also bei uns. Dass Hiyoko nach Ibuki gestorben ist, aber das stimmt nicht.
Then, Hiyoko was actually killed before Ibuki?
A valid line of reasoning.
Yeah, it's valid. The condition of Ibuki's body suggests that as well.
What do you mean? If you're going to cry and beg like that, then I guess I'll hear about the condition of Ibuki's body.
I'm not even crying.
I'll let you sob as much as you want later. Just hurry up and tell me before I change my mind.
What a jerk!
Oh, I see. You want me to explain it to you, right? Because you don't understand what I'm saying, right?
An even bigger jerk? Impossible!
Look, Ibuki died because she hanged herself, right? That means when she was still alive, her feet were touching the floor.
What's wrong with that?
But it seems Ibuki was still standing when Hiyoko was killed. That would mean Hiyoko was killed before Ibuki.
How light. Your words are so light as the sylph's feather. Your opponent is out of your league. It is too absurd to try to perplex me so inadequately.
Man, he's being annoying again.
First and foremost, you claim Ibuki's feet were touching the floor when Hiyoko was killed. How can a low-class creature with no psychic abilities like you know something like that?
Because she was doing something that's only possible if her feet were on the floor.
It seems you suffer from a pathetic delusion.
You're one to talk.
Anyway, if this continues, we're just gonna talk in circles. I think it's best if we clarify Ibuki's status when Hiyoko was killed.
When Hiyoko died, Ibuki's feet were on the floor.
I am telling you to present your evidence.
Did you see her walking?
If her feet were on the floor, was there any sign she stepped on something?
Were there even any footprints at the crime scene?
Maybe her feet were on the floor. But she was like sitting or something. So instead, there'd be a mark on her ass!
Weak, 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 I say! It doesn't even pierce my heart!
Chucky said Ibuki was still standing when Hiyoko was killed, but is that really true?
When Hyoko died, Ibuki's feet were on the floor.
I am telling you to present your evidence.
Did you see her walk?
If her feet was there any sign were there even any?
Maybe her feet were, but she was like sitting. So
Aber ich habe eine Idee.
Weak. It doesn't even pierce my heart.
When Hyoko
Wir hätten
died,
doch eigentlich
Ibuki's
Blutspuren
feet were
hinterlassen
on the
müssen.
floor.
Nein, ist doch falsch. Does the evidence you just presented contradict what I just said? Ibuki was still saying when Hyoko was killed for sure.
When Hyoko died, Ibuki's feet were on the floor.
I am telling you to present your evidence.
Did you see her walking?
If her feet were on the floor, was there any sign she stepped on something?
Were there even any footprints at the crime scene?
Maybe her feet were on the floor, but she was like sitting. So
Das Ding
instead,
ist, ich hätte eigentlich sonst
It
gesagt
doesn't
so,
even pierce
dass ich
my
mit
heart.
Sonja agree, weil die hat doch gesagt, dass sie in irgendwas getreten ist und dann sah er Blut. Deswegen dachte ich halt das. Ich probiere das jetzt mal trotzdem.
I am telling you to
did you see her walking?
If her feet were on the floor, was there any sign she stepped on something?
Ja,
I agree
guck.
with that.
Okay. Warum sagt er dann von wegen, dass ihr okay? Gut.
Just as Sonia said, Ibuki stepped on something. That something was blood. There were faint blood stains on the soles of her slippers.
That is not Ibuki's blood, right? She suffered no external injuries.
Then it's Hyoko's blood.
Hyoko's only wound was a fatal slice on her neck, and she died almost instantly, right?
If Ibuki stepped on her blood,
It means Ibuki was still standing when Hyoko was mortally wounded. Which means Ibuki was still alive at the exact moment Hyoko was killed.
don't underestimate the power of the evil eye.
Oh, Hilfe. Geht das schon wieder los?
Is that it? A shepherd dressed in his Sunday's finest still reeks of lamb, Hajime Hinata.
Does that mean you have a rebuttal?
Does that mean you have a rebuttal? That's a good line. But are you sure you're sure? If I show you how serious I am, this world might be destroyed, you know. You're so frightened you can't even make a sound. It seems you've realized our difference in status. However, the time for conviction starts now. You better entertain me to the fullest. You're saying the blood on Ibuki's feet belonged... Ha! Impossible! Try to remember the crime scene. There was no... You can't step on blood that was never there. Just about one... Did you see a nice nightmare? You're saying the blood on Ibuki's feet belonged to Hyoko? Ha! Impossible! Try to remember the crime scene. There was no blood on the floor.
Allow me to cut through those words! That's not it. The reason there was no blood on the floor is because the killer wiped it away afterward.
Don't say such foolish things! You don't have proof of that at all!
Yes, I do. If you look closely, there's a streak on the floor where blood was wiped away.
When the killer tried to hide Hyoko's body, they probably cleaned the blood at the same time, but Ibuki must have already stepped in it, and the killer probably didn't even realize it.
The reason they wiped off the blood on the floor was so we'd mix up the order of the murders, right? Even if they're able to hide Hyoko's body, it'd be bad if her blood was left out in the open.
Plus, Ibuki's body was left out in the open, and it wasn't bleeding from any open wounds at all.
Hyoko's body was probably wrapped in duct tape to stop her bleeding.
Actually, the bleeding will stop once the heart stops beating. So I don't think they had to go that far.
aside from Mikon, none of us were aware of that fact. So the killer probably did not know it either.
Okay, gut Leute, wir sehen uns im nächsten Part weiter bei Danganronpa 2. Goodbye, Despair und ciao.